recording. There we go. And Chris is quite prepared to take questions as we progress through this.
So what I've done is I've put in the chat Maureen's website address so you can all look at it. I'm going to share the screen. There's going to be an interactive piece to this, so please don't mute. If you want to get involved, you want to ask questions, feel free to do so. It's going to be about 35-40 minutes to do this. And obviously Maureen will, it'd be great if we had some input from Maureen as well. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen first of all. And the title is Boosting Conversion Insights for Soft Skills Success by Let's Rock, which is me and Claudia. And the purpose of the session is to provide actionable steps that are going to improve the conversion rate of the website and also focus on the blog. So first of all, what is conversion rate optimization? Well, it's simply taking casual visitors and turning them into real customers. What we're looking to do is to ensure that the interaction on the website is really personal and it has an impact, and the impact might be sales or it might be contact, depending on what you actually want. And I did a conversion rate optimization speech at the European Digital Marketing League in 2022, and you can see there when a website is optimized for conversions, it's not just about the numbers, it's about crafting an experience that resonates with users on an emotional level, turning clicks into lasting relationships. And actually it's more than that, because conversion rate optimization over the last 25 years that I've been doing it is more has become more about a link with search engine optimization as well. And I'll identify that and show you what I mean by that as we go through the presentation. So let's talk about Maureen. Maureen has got 30 years of experience. She's a communication and presentation skills specialist. She has two core areas, which are master your pitch and own the room. Basically, it's a tailored coaching process. It can either be one-to-one or with teams. She's got multiple client testimonials. She serves not only Irish clients, but clients all over the world. And her calls to action, these things she wants you to do on her website, are either to book a call and talk to her or download a PDF that I'll share with you, and we'll go through the PDF as well. Okay, so as with a lot of companies, Maureen has created some personas. Now, I'm not personally a fan of personas unless you've actually got data to support the idea of who the persona is. In the old days with Google Analytics, we used to get a lot of information about age of person, type of person, sex of person, etc., etc. We don't have that luxury anymore. So it's really hard to actually drill down into the type of person that you want to deal with. But Maureen has got three key personas. One is Paula. She's a shy lady. She's not used to public speaking. She'll avoid it like the plague, and she wants to develop her credibility within the organization. Derek is a guy who's got a small and medium business that he runs. He's been running that for a few years. Some of the things that he does presentation-wise are very, very good, and others are not so good. So what he's done is identified the people that need higher skills for internal and external presentations. And he knows that if he's going to invest in this, it's going to pay him back in spades long term. And finally, we've got Mike. And Mike is an L&D lead, a learning and development lead. He's passionate about his career. He's passionate about his team. He wants to see a much better public speaking skills process from his team. And these are the three buckets of people that Maureen has identified as her personas.
Just to add in there, Chris, they're actually, they are the main clients that I work with as well. So it's not the ideal. That's where most of my business is coming from, those areas. Perfect.
Thank you. So what we've done is we've extrapolated the data from Google Analytics that Maureen has, and also from Google Search Console, and we've used Python script, and between the three of those things we've pulled out the data of the number of sessions and all the information covering the period of July. So as I said 1,300 sessions, we got 1,400 sessions. So Forgive me for the 100 lost. A session is an activity that began on the site. The engaged session 205 is where there was at least one event carried out and more than 2 pages from one visitor session were prominent. And you can see new users. So we always benchmark new and returning users, and depending on your business, depends on whether you actually want people to come back in. If it's a one-off purchase, then you're likely to have a large percentage of new users. If you want people to engage with you in a community kind of way and you want to upsell and cross-sell to them in the future, then you'd probably expect to see more of a balance of new versus returning users. And we've now got some new metrics from Google. One is called engagement rate, and engagement time rather, is an average length of time that your website was visible in the viewer's browser window. So you actually physically saw the website. And the browser examples can include all the ones that you know. And then the ratio that we've shown here is a percentage of the engaged sessions to the total sessions. In the old days, that used to be called bounce rate, and bounce rate has been replaced by this, and it's actually kind of a reverse thing now, that the higher the number, the less engaged the people are. So Maureen's engagement rate overall is pretty good, except for the fact that the engagement time overall is very, very low. Yeah, so we've got an average 10 seconds on the site overall, and that's across every single page. Okay. So moving on to the positives, because we like positives here. So the positives are, this is an overview and a snapshot of some cuts of Maureen's website. What we love is obviously the communication skills and style. We would be surprised if it wasn't the case that this was a website that was communicated very, very well. And the messages that Maureen gives out come with a degree of empathy. Yeah, so it really feels like you're engaged in it. We can see at first glance exactly what she does. We've got trust signals across the site, which means we've got testimonials. There's clients talking about how good Maureen is, and equally there's also some logos around the page showing the type of people that she's worked with, even what works with. The alliteration is great. The nice, what we call the hero phrase, which is the top banner, communicate, connect, confidence. It really trips off the tongue. It's really nice. She uses video as a personalization. She talks about you instead of we. And on that point, I think I've mentioned before in these groups, when you've got your website, normally the best thing to do, the raison d'etre, is that you have an about us to talk about us and we, but the rest of the site is all about you as the viewer. Yeah, so the parlance should be in that way. And if you understand roughly the level of the audience that you're talking to, you should talk in that language level. So for example, if you're trying to capture an average audience, let's say, whatever an average might be, you really want to be talking or writing, sorry, with short, sharp sentences, simple words. You know, creating big words doesn't make you seem better anyway. It just confuses potentially some of your audience. So Maureen does this really well, and also she uses external tools to create meetings, and in this case she's using Calendly as her meeting and appointment system. Okay. Now to the negatives. So the interesting thing about Maureen's website, looking at the data, is that almost 3/4 of the traffic is desktop. Google tells us that actually we should be mobile first, and we should be looking at everything from a mobile perspective. So what we've done is we've taken some screenshots from the mobile for Maureen, and you can see quite clearly the issues that are faced. Now, this is something that's quite common when you take a theme off the shelf and you're trying to build the website yourself. If you try to do any kind of customization or anything that sort of is different to the theme, you can have these challenges. Yeah. Now, I don't know what theme you used with Squarespace. I don't know what the options are, but you can see quite clearly from a user experience, it can be that when we've looked at the data, we've seen that mobile traffic that does come doesn't stay on the website as long as desktop traffic. So the assumption would be at this point that they get this kind of experience, and that's obviously causing them to leave. Yeah. And this is a snapshot of.
Sorry, could I ask Chris, do you know, because that's all from one page that I created myself, is
Yes.
that across the website? Because I would hope it's not, because the rest of it was created by the web designer.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know, because we haven't had, obviously we've only had a couple of days to do this.
Yeah.
So we can talk
That page I
offline.
could understand, because that was the one that I did myself. So I'll have to check on it. Thank you.
Well, we can talk offline and go through that. But obviously, this one page is, you know, if it's one page, it's one page too many, basically, because it depends on if obviously if the client is landing on this page, there can be a problem. So for the viewer, what we've identified, the pink banner that Maureen has got across the top clearly says she's got a new course or a new program that's going to be running. We've got millions of people across the world who have got issues with visual impairment. You can see I wear glasses. A lot of people are not blind, but they still have problems reading. The contrast on the background from the white and the pink is not good enough. It's too close to each other, so that potentially isolates an audience. The images that Maureen uses are very clean and crisp. As a photographer, that's something that I always look at. But actually, this is the image from that page, and you can see quite clearly it's huge and it's not compressed. So the issue is that when the search engine or the viewer loads the page, they're waiting for this image to load on first load. And we've already seen that the majority of people that are coming are people who are doing it as a first-time exercise. So it's their first experience. So that needs to be addressed, and images need to be compressed. And I'm not sure about Squarespace, but certainly if you were using WordPress, there are compression plugins. And there is actually a new compression format called AVIF, which compresses images down to the lowest possible level. Okay.
So what we're saying there, sorry, Chris, is like a very nice image. It's a very nice professional image.
Lovely.
However, its image size for the website is too big.
Yes.
It should be reduced to fit for a potential viewer.
We're absolutely saying that.
Yeah, okay. You should really resize them for every place you use the images.
Absolutely.
Every time they're being called for by the browser,
yeah,
you're not downloading extra stuff, basically.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. That's an interesting. Okay.
I think if they're generated in Figma, that can happen automatically.
It can be, but again, when you get into the development side, there are multiple tools on multiple platforms. I'm sure Squarespace probably have something that you could integrate that would.
That does surprise me, Chris, because even WordPress, for example, even straight out of the box, it resizes them to different, even built in, it has different sizes. I'm surprised by that, actually.
So was I. Yeah, I thought that would be a standard these days, but okay. I don't know. Last time I used Squarespace was about 10 years ago, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
There's a lot of spacing in the elements, and what I mean by that is simply that there is a lot of space around the aspects that Maureen talks about. And more than that, if we're talking about a website that needs to be likable for not just the viewer, but also for the search engine, things like the program schedule, if you put some context and text in there, and that was text and not an image, then actually that might be picked up by the search engine. Yeah, so we've got here, you can see sign up goes to the left. We've got some really strange layouts here. And again, you know, we might be able to fix that. You and I can talk about it, and I'll see if I can help you to fix it. But obviously what it means is the viewers like looking around the screen. Yeah, so they get confused. And again, if we're talking about new viewers, they want clean, crisp, fast, and they won't hang around. Yeah. And finally, the PDF. Now, in terms of the way we work, is we like to look at not just the negatives and the positives, but also the opportunities. So Maureen has a PDF download, which I said to you at the beginning was one of her calls to action, what she wants people to do. And when we open the PDF, we get this. Now, on first glance, no problem at all. But what interested us was that we've got these two colors for Maureen, which are the two different shades of blue or turquoise, whatever you want to call it. and then we suddenly open up with green. And as with the website itself, one of the issues is we've got multiple fonts all over the place. Yeah, I think we found 5 different fonts in total. Yeah, so standardization is good. Nick will tell you, and Amit will tell you, most marketing material is 2 fonts. Yeah, and you have a header font and a body font. So
yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is I've got kind of a library image here, and for me, when I look at the website, it's all about Maureen. It's Maureen's experience, which I've talked to you about that. I'd love to see Maureen doing a class here. Yeah, so you put me in right in the place, and it wouldn't take a lot for somebody to take a photo of you actually running your course, I guess. We don't know why there are bullets here, because it's not really a bullet section. And again, you know, it's a moot point, but I think that could be done maybe in squares, and it could be laid out a lot better. The layout is kind of confusing, but without going into detail, again, we've got some accessibility issues here with the color. And also we then suddenly introduce another shade of the color. And ultimately, if you think about this, if I'm downloading this from the website and I get it, it may sit with me for a while. It may sit in my inbox or whatever. But what would be really interesting is if there was a call to action, a hyperlink inside the website that took me back to course information, so I could actually book, yeah, at the end. So you actually use it more as a sales tool. Now, if you do this correctly, you create a URL, a website address for this particular process. You track that, and you can actually see how many people have downloaded it and how many people have signed up as a consequence of that. So it can become a very useful tool for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the presentation. So moving on. One thing for the viewer, as I said, is you know, what the viewer likes. The search engine is equally as important. Yeah. So what I've done is I've taken one of these pages, which you can see here, and I've taken what the engine sees when we look at a search for the actual URL inside Google, and you can see the snapshot of that. Inside Maureen's site, we found 745 errors in the website itself, and they go to page speed, they go to search engine optimization, they go to content, the balance of images against content. But on a lot of pages, there are not what we call meta descriptions. And a meta description is this two-line sentence here. This is the meta title, and this is the meta description. When there isn't a meta description, Google decides to create one for itself from the first line of HTML it sees on your website. Yeah. So you then reduce the opportunity for you to tell your kind of sales pitch inside that description. Yeah. So that needs to be addressed. I guess, again, in the back end, you've got each page content management system, and you can change both your title tag and your description. Yeah. So Google did this for you, and it's not what we see in the back end of the website in the code. Yeah, so that needs to be looked at. We already mentioned that images are too big, and that goes against Google usability standards now. So they've actually introduced part of the algorithm or the maths it used to calculate the ranking. It's now against usability standards to have these images too big. The meta title, which is the purple here, is too long. The recommendation is a maximum of 60 characters, including spaces. On mobile, we tend to use 40 to 45. And you can imagine, for us in Germany, that's really hard for German websites, because every German word is 600 characters long. So we really do struggle with that one. And what we also identified using another tool was that the crawl depth is 4. And what that means is I land on the home page, which is the most visited page on Maureen's website, and it takes me an average of 4 clicks to get to anywhere where there's a call to action. So that the average should be maximum 3. And in this day and age, with speed being a governing factor, if you think that a website user, as far as Google is concerned on mobile, you've got 2.2 seconds to capture me to fully load the website. Yeah, if you don't capture me in that time, I'm out. So you've really not got a lot of time. And equally, if your search engine optimization was correct, then I would put in coaching skills and I would arrive on a coaching skills page and the journey would be kind of aligned. And at the moment, that's not the case. We've also, going back to the accessibility, and again, a very, very small part of the Google Maths is images without alt tags. But again, this isolates a viewer. So you've got your image here. And as far as an alt tag is concerned, we would say lady with red hair in black dress with a white necklace on a black background. And that would be a perfect alt tag. And each image needs to have that description so that if somebody with a visual impairment turns off their browser images, which they can do, and they ask the browser to read to them, which they also can do, there would be no description right now for this image. So it would just skip over that on the page. Yeah, and browser reading is getting much more sophisticated now.
Is a power line.
And so when we look live at this particular page, what we see, focusing now on the blog, because Maureen was particularly interested in the blog content in the main appears to be out of date. Now Google wants to see fresh content, and so does the viewer. So we need to look at that and how to address it. We'll talk about how to address it in a minute. We've got huge images that are stuck in the middle of the page like that. And that is, again, an issue because that's taking up a huge amount of balance between text and image. And again, it takes on average 1.65 seconds for that image to load. So that's an awful long time to wait to get that in. And that's reasonably high up on the page as well. So we want to look at that, and maybe there's a different way to do that. And again, from an aesthetic point of view, we've got a very blurry image, and we know factually sometimes it's really hard to get an image, but it's almost a rule of thumb that if you want quality for your website, don't have the image there. If you haven't got it, just put a soundbite of who the person is and leave it at that. It's much better than looking at that, and people get more and more judgmental as time goes on. Yeah, so again, it goes to the quality angle. We've got no calls to action for the key sales pages. Yeah, so we've got a website page for the blog. Similar thing again. And there's two critical areas. You could make more of the bottom. We'll talk about that in a minute in terms of sending people into a sales journey. So hooking them better. But equally, we've got comments here. And again, on most pages, I think there are no comments. So really, I would get rid of comments completely because it's like, Maureen's piece wasn't engaging. You know, we don't know how many people come to this website as another viewer, yeah. But with no comments, it's like it's a dead space, yeah. So we would look at that as well. There are, as I said, huge and various texts, and equally, it's too slow to load. Now, what we use is a product called webpagetest.org, and with webpagetest.org, we can analyze any website anywhere in the world, and we can see how long the website page takes to load, and now what we call the core web vitals, which is the page shifting as it loads. Yeah, so do different elements move around the screen, and you can see quite clearly here when I mentioned the 2.2 seconds page load, we've got on this particular page it's taking us 4 seconds at least for the page to be loadable, and we ran this 10 times, and this is an aggregate of the 10-time run. Okay, so that needs to be addressed. And so what we've done is we've created these ideas for you of how potentially an inner page blog post should look like. So you keep your banner short at the top, and effectively what would be great is if you had some trust symbols more both in the website and in the blog above what we call the fold, and the fold is the top of your screen to the bottom of your screen without scrolling. Yeah, that's known as the fold. So it would be really good if you had a short message in there, you had a nice crisp image in there, we wrapped the text around it, and we had the recent posts here so we could see, you know, is there anything related to it? There might be a search box in there, there would be, you know, a category information, and ultimately at the bottom, you could put a call to sales action there and get rid of the comment, as I said. So you could tidy it up really nice. Well, we hope you can tidy it up really nicely. We're going to see when we help you do that. But blogs some people are saying blogs are dead. It's interesting for us with you because you call it a blog, but actually you can see clearly that we've got a different name for it here. And as with us, we call ours Learning Guide. Yeah. So because of the way Google is now looking at content, it wants to see rich content and information within the content, and also some kind of good link, what we call an internal link structure. And you've actually got that here. You take me to another page, but it's another how to use page. Yeah. So again, there's no issue with that. It's kind of an internal navigation for the viewer, as long as it makes sense. It will make sense for the search engine as well. But if you had, you know, a nice call to action, the last paragraph could be, you know, you've learned something here. Now, why not book a course? Yeah. And that we think would increase your conversions quite a lot. So overall, what I've done is just a quick summary, which is enhance the layout, excuse me, enhance the layout, break up the text, optimize better for mobile, add visuals to illustrate key points, things like infographics. You know, if you've got any anecdotal information that you can share that comes from a credible source, don't be afraid to share the source name. Don't link out to the source name because you're sending people away from your website. Make sure you become the authority. Create a much more focused search engine structure with a maximum of 3 clicks for both the viewer and the search engine. Make the CTAs as emotional as the words you already use. You don't use social sharing buttons. So if I go to a post and I say to Amit, take a look at Maureen's website, then I can share the link, obviously. But if I want to share it to my social media posts, then I've got no quick way of doing that. And make sure that your content is always refreshed, or either archive it or use what's called evergreen content, which if an article has been written by you 2 years ago, let's say, and you think, actually, I could update that. We've got a lawyer client in Munich, and they wrote something about COVID. Yeah, she's involved in employment law. And obviously, COVID is still an issue. It's becoming a bigger issue here again now. And she's updated her evergreen content, and in the last 30 days she's got 600 viewers and 15 pieces of business just on that, from that page. Yeah, so she didn't have to reinvent the wheel, she just had to update the detail. So when we achieve success, we've got happy Paula, happy Derek, happy Mike. Yeah, and ultimately happy customers, more courses sold, more opportunities, more inquiries, and that equals happy Maureen. And that's what we want to see. So as I said, what we're going to do is we're going to have an offline chat with Maureen. We're going to offer our services free to work with her over the next few weeks and see what we can do to improve this. And then we'll come back into the group in early October, and hopefully we're going to see some improvement. We're going to see some changes, and away we go. And if you want more information, you'll see that we've got our own page at letsrock.com dedicated to conversion rate optimization, and that gives you a really basic view of what it is, what it does, and how you can improve yourself. And that's the presentation. Thank you.
Well, can I say, Chris, thank you so much for a very valuable presentation, and thank you so much, Maureen, for volunteering.
Yeah, thank you, Maureen.
I was going to put myself under the microscope, but I don't think my ego could handle it.
I'm not sure mine can. I just got thanks a million, Chris. There's lots of really useful tips, and you know, some of the content, some of what's there came as a big surprise to me with regard to number of font sizes and so on, because I'm like, I did not know that. But just in case anybody thinks that I've gone missing, I am away for a couple of weeks in September, and I've got clients, so I think I'd be at one meeting in September. It's not a reflection of Chris's analysis of my website today. I'm not hiding.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks.
I think the thing I would say is that when we talk to a client for the first time, there's always this apprehension that, you know, I want to know more, and I'm not getting more. You've got this gut feeling that something's not right, or you've got data that tells you that something's not right. But it's always a bit of tough love that we've got to give, and it's quite a sensitive area because you're quite precious about your website. But ultimately, I've never built a website for a client ever. It's always been for their client, and I've never done conversion optimization for a client. It's always been for the outcome for that client. Yeah. So what we don't want to do is cry out spilt milk. We want to look at what's happened, but we're more interested in going forward and, you know, improving it.
And
That's great. Listen,
I think
thanks
that's a
again.
very